recording. Thank you for joining netcastevent.com and for registering for our special interview with Oren Klaff. My name is Kirsten Kloss. I'm in studio here with Chris Hamilton. Chris and I have developed Netcast Event as a way to communicate with business people around the world, essentially. And we bring in guests to interview through a Skype call process. And today we have a special guest, Oren Klaff. Oren is joining us from Miami right now. And Chris Hamilton, of course, is in studio with me here today. I'm going to let Chris introduce Oren. We both read his book, Pitch Anything, and it's a very compelling book. But today we're going to actually talk about everything around the book, not necessarily about the book itself. So, Chris, why don't I just pass this on to you, and you can maybe take this interview on from here.
Exactly. First off, Oren, appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us. And one of the things that you told us before the interview is that you had to spend an extra day in Miami to be able to accommodate for us, and we greatly appreciate it. And at least it's not like Sioux City, Iowa, or something like that, right? So I think you're extremely lucky to at least be in Miami on that aspect of it. But we do appreciate it.
I'm looking out at the bay, and a couple power boats are going by. So if this gets too boring, I'm gonna have to leave in the middle and probably jump out there with those guys who are having fun.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, lucky you, because we're in Calgary and it's just starting to we get about 2 bad months of snowmobiling weather up here. So it's in essence it's starting to get a little cold outside. Anyways, just as a high level on yourself, Oren, you are I'm just looking at the back of the book here. So you're the director of capital markets for Intersection Capital. Of course, you've written this. You've raised a significant amount of money over the past few years, which as it relates to the audience that we typically draw in on this stuff, these people are in sales and they're almost in the same shoes as you. They're out and they are pitching, but they're looking at it at a different angle. They're selling is what it is. And I think kind of the first thing I want to lead off on is the understanding of the difference between pitching and selling, because they're two different aspects, I believe, according to you. And just wondering if you might be able to kind of elaborate on that just a little bit for us, please.
Yeah, I can. I think it's important that people kind of know where I came from.
Sure.
So I've been in the capital raising business for about 12 years. So every day I wake up and I go, hey, I have a project and it needs to find financing, right? And so in essence, I sell one of the most difficult things, which is concepts. I have no physical product. And most of the companies that I raise money for, they themselves are abstract. They're either technology oriented, where there's nothing physical to touch and feel and smell and kick and pull apart and put together, or they're pure financial concepts. And so there's nothing there either. So it's the ultimate selling of intangibles, and it's the selling of abstract notions, which is capital. So that adds a level of, and anybody who's out there who has these challenges of selling intangibles, my heart goes out to you, because the mind is not wired to be excited about concepts. It's like things. If we see a Ferrari or a watch or a beautiful house or a boat or a woman or a Star Wars, those are all things that are compelling in the moment. Abstract financial concepts are the most difficult thing to break through to somebody else's mind and create a compelling selling environment around. So, in the last couple of years, I've raised a couple $100 million. I mean, that sounds incredibly exciting at some level, but there's guys at Goldman Sachs who will raise that next week. So, to put it in perspective, the difference is Goldman Sachs has 8,000 employees and a national brand, and I did all of this on my own or with one partner. So it's a pretty big number. And the other thing is I didn't do it in $100 million chunks. We did it, sometimes $500,000, $1 million, $2 million at a time. So it's a lot of capital raising experience. So what I learned, over the time is that selling and pitching are two completely distinct skill sets. There is a little bit of overlap, but I'll tell you, in my mind, that in selling, you are building a relationship. And I actually don't do a ton of selling. What I'm forced into is pitching. Pitching is, licking the bullet, laying in the weeds, putting the wind clicker, waiting to have one pull on the trigger before everybody, wakes up and they know there's a shooter, right? You get one bullet, maybe two. In selling, it's a, I don't know if the military metaphor works, but in selling, you're building a relationship. You can come back to the customer multiple times. If you go pitch a loan to a bank, almost never they go, you know what? It's a no for now, but we like you. We'd like to see how you develop. Come back in next month and pitch us again. Right? I mean, it does happen, but most of the time in pitching, a no is a no. You go before a committee. The committee sees your pitch. They contemplate it, and then they give you an answer, and they don't say, improve your offering and come back. They say, goodbye, don't call us, we're done, right? We'll see you again on your next project if they liked you. So pitching is one shot, one kill, one bite of the apple. Selling is a relationship build over time. And sometimes, you build a relationship over time just to get to the pitch. But pitching is, I guess in selling, if you really get the meeting with the CEO and you've worked up the food chain, that can be the pitch part of selling. The CEO is going to make the ultimate determination, and then your go or no go. So it's really when you're faced with those go, no go decisions that you have to put a lot of concentration into what you're saying in a short period of time, because you're getting that ultimate decision.
Gotcha.
Wow.
So the other aspect too is, you literally started with nothing and have worked yourself up, is what, and there's a lot of people that come to our show that are the entrepreneurs type thing, right? And, there's the struggles and trials and tribulations that you go through and stuff like that. One of the things that you talk about is kind of, building that relationship prior to, but sometimes you just don't have that. It's the one shot kill to go in and get it done. It's an extremely stressful environment. But in your case, how do you prepare yourself for these types of meetings? And there's got to be a correlation for some of these people that are sitting there too, because they wear multiple hats, right? They don't necessarily do pitching or selling or marketing or whatever at one time, but they have to go in being prepared. What kind of stuff do you handle on that sort of aspect?
Yeah. So this is really important, and actually, this part of the book or the material is maybe the most important, and it's not the free part. But Chris, I'll make it, anybody who wants to follow up on this and read this stuff, I'll just give you the chapter. You can get it to your audience, because this is really chapter 2, and McGraw-Hill doesn't give it away. Is the problem. But I'm happy to give it away. They can get mad at me.
We appreciate that.
That we don't.
Yeah, and I should note that for those that are attending this broadcast, Chapter 1 is available below this, so you can download Chapter 1 if you'd like. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I just thought I should mention that.
So we talked about preparation, and I developed something called prizing. So the problem that I found in myself, and then having noticed in myself, seen it in almost every single person who goes into raise money, and that's my world, but selling something. We, for years and years and years, I and my group and the people I knew tend to believe that the money is the prize that we were there to perform for and win. Not unlike American Idol or X Factor, our presentation to a fund or a venture capital group or a company was a performance, and they actually call it a dog and pony show, right? So we would put on our little red clown nose, our suspenders, get on a little tricycle, ride around in circles, and juggle to impress the king. And in essence, we're the court jester. And then if the king decides that our performance was adequate, he will touch his scepter to our shoulder or head and award us a prize. And that is the general metaphor that exists today, is we're going to meet with a company or a group, right? We're going to do our dog and pony show with our squeaky little clown nose and our suspenders, and hopefully they'll be impressed and award us the prize of a contract or a deal or some capital, right? That is the ultimately the number one mistake in preparation or in raising capital. It is treating the other party as the prize to be won. The money is not the prize. You are the prize. Mm-hmm. So there is the amount of capital or contracts or deals, but really capital is in the world is it. Money is the ultimate commodity. I mean, you can get it out of walk down the street and you can get it out of a ATM machine. There's bank branches. It is more of a commodity than rice or oil. It is the ultimate commodity. You can get it anywhere. If you're in California right now and you have a startup that has some technology elements, there's probably 100,000 places more. So I'm friends with the Black Swan Venture Group, and they actually know these numbers. But there's definitely more than 100,000 sources for $1 million of capital. If you're in California with a tech startup, money is an absolute commodity. You are the prize. All right. You have worked on. The deal. Deals are rare. You know how to communicate it. You have a value proposition. You solve a problem. You can improve the lives or the performance or the capital for the people you're pitching. You're providing value and yourself. I mean, so you have to go in. The preparation is I'm the prize. They have to win me. And if you can prepare, if you can get your inner game focused enough and organized enough, so you exude and walk that attitude. From the second you're in the door, you frame everything as you guys with the capital or the contract to award need to work to win my attention. You need to work to win my product. You need to work to win time with me. I'm not, okay, I'm going to let you guys interject, but the last thing is, so in addition to pitching for capital, I also sit on the intake committee on a hedge fund and a private equity group. And when companies come to pitch us for money, one thing I notice is they'll stay there forever. If we let them stay for 2 hours, they'll stay. 3 hours, they'll stay. Because they'll stay until they either get a yes or a no. And that is, it communicates neediness. So when you control time, you signal that your time is valuable and you're the prize. So functionally, some of the first things that I'll say is, hey, I have about 40 minutes to spend with you, and then I have to run to another meeting. All right, so let's kick it off, right? I can spend about 20 minutes telling you about our project and what we have. We can talk for a little bit, and if there's a love connection and there's some chemistry, then we can figure out how to get back together and go forward. Now, you may blow through that time constraint, but communicating it shows I'm valuable, my time is valuable, there's some agenda here, and by the way, it's my agenda, not yours.
So you take on an alpha male role, right?
Go ahead.
You almost take on that alpha male role, I guess, as to he who wins. It comes back to I guess your framing concept as well, right? Is you do want to control this, and it puts you in the seat, the driver's seat.
Yeah. So when I came up with this concept of I'm the prize, you need to earn my time, you need to attract me to give you my product, you need to tell me why I would work with you or why I would take your money, right? Well, that's a great concept. Then I had to kind of figure out some tools to let me know how I was doing with that approach, right? A way to measure if it was working or if it was creepy, or if it was offensive, or if it was coming across arrogant, right? Because you can definitely see the line between I'm the prize, you need to earn my time,
yep,
to arrogance or overconfidence, right?
Yep.
Or overpromise.
Yep.
So how do we measure that line? So we came up with this concept of frames, frames and frame control. So the frame in my method and system and lexicon is the window through which the social interaction is viewed. A frame. So you hear it all. Look, you hear it all the time. The Republicans frame the Democrats' view on guns as gun control, and nobody likes control. Like, that's framing, right? Here's ultimate friendly fire, right? We killed our own guy.
Yeah.
Right? So we, the military has reframed that as friendly fire. So framing is very powerful. And here's what we learned about framing. Every social interaction, and business presentations or meetings are social interactions ultimately, right? Every social interaction, two frames come together and collide. Frames come together and collide. Perspectives cannot coexist for very long. So we come together to a meeting, and your perspective of the issue and my perspective of the issue cannot coexist. So the stronger frame always overtakes the weaker frame. So then the issue becomes having the strongest perspective or frame on the social interaction. So you come together, frames collide. Literally, if you have the stronger frame, then your perspective will dominate the social interaction. To make this very real, you could see, it happens with a 3-year-old. It's 15 minutes before dinner. When a 3-year-old wants some ice cream. So that is one of the strongest frames in the world. The I want ice cream frame, you will give it to me. Right? And you may have a we shouldn't eat ice cream before dinner, but the amount of energy for you to overcome the strength of a 3-year-old's I want ice cream frame could derail dinner. It could take you half an hour to try and change that frame, right? And so in the situations I've seen, that usually wins, right? Because you can't, it's too strong. So strong frames crush weak frames. And so now, in terms of your preparation question, I'm the prize, and then coming to the social interaction with a very strong frame. And the framing is, we talk more about it, the framing is, I'm the prize, you need to win my time. So how do you know if it's working, which is how I started this segment? It is when people are reacting to the things you do and say, you have frame control. When you are reacting to the things that other people are doing and saying, they have frame control, right? So if you come in and you're prizing and they are offended or not reacting or moving backwards or not reacting positively, you have not gained frame control with your particular approach to prizing. Is this making sense?
Absolutely. I mean, for anyone that's been in a position where they're actually trying to talk to somebody, I think, scenarios for myself, I've gone in and talked to CEOs and stuff like that, right? And these guys they carry a lot of I was going to say arrogance. It's not arrogance. It's clout, I guess, the best way to look at it, right? And they command and control a lot of stuff. But there have been situations where you get in, and I often call it, if you have something that is compelling enough for them and you start listening and stuff, they all of a sudden start realizing, oh shit, you know what? Yeah, this guy has something. I need to listen.
So up to this point, this is compelling and exciting, but it's a little abstract. And this is, I want to cover something that I cover in the book, but it's very practical, right? And I do it all the time. So if you said to me, okay, I'm trying to get onto these concepts, but what's one practical thing I can do to experience prizing and frame control, right? And this is something we do all the time, and it's very effective. And it's funny, once you explain it to people that you've done it to, they laugh and they say, they're not offended by it at all. They're like, yeah, that's good. So a lot of times when we have a pitch, we'll bring in something big, on a board related to it, or something physical that's big and bulky. Poster boards are really good for this.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll lay it face down on the table. Or if it's a physical product, we'll kind of obscure it or have it half in and out of a box, right?
Yep.
Eventually, someone on the other side will reach for it to either look and see what it is, pull it out of the box, unveil it, just, they have some natural curiosity. You smack their hand away and you say, I'll show you that when I'm ready. We're following my schedule, my agenda. This is my meeting, right? You sit back and enjoy it. And immediately, that is the gaining of frame control, because you have created, and these are the keys, a denial and a defiance in a social setting that is not unfriendly. So if you could do it with a smile and some humor, but seriousness, the keys are denial and defiance.
Oh, did Oren stop there?
Yeah, Oren stopped. Hold on. We'll just wait for him to come back. Hang tight. That's the thing with the Skype calls. And we'll get him back. Too bad, because he was in a really good movement there of thought there. Just hang tight here. There we go. He's back.
Oh, is he on?
No, I just accepted the call. It was 2 seconds.
Do we have audio?
Hold on. Are you with us there? Not hearing you. Oh, it's still connecting. Hang tight, everyone. There we go.
There we go.
Hey, there
We got you.
Sorry about that, Oren.
Skype
It's
calls.
Okay.
the way it is. You were in a total. You
Too
were
bad.
going. That was awesome.
we had you in a nice stretch there. Okay, we're back. No worries. We'll just edit that out. Keep going.
I want to give an example. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, absolutely. If you
Okay,
can hear us,
yeah.
we can hear you. Yep.
Right from the start that thought again.
Okay. I want to give an example that I think will be meaningful for your audience. And I could, hopefully I won't get in too much trouble, because this is live action fire from a deal, that I'm in today. But we recently pitched a deal. Oh, this is great. This thing can serve an example for a couple things. But so we pitched a deal to a large venture firm in Silicon Valley. Top 10 firm by performance of their public companies, more than $1 billion under management. Pitched them successfully, which that is a story in its own. They came down, so they issued a term sheet for the company that I'm helping at 150 pre-money valuation. This company has about $5 million in revenue.
Wow.
Right? So that is, that's an extraordinary valuation for a $5 million revenue. 150 million pre-money with $30 million investment for 180 million post money on 5 million of revenue. So that was a good pitch. It worked. But after the pitch, you always have the due diligence period. And so they came down for due diligence, and they brought an outside analyst. In this specific, this is a biotech. So in their specific area of genetics. And so we're sitting in the conference room, and this outside consultant begins to really get on a steamroll. How do you guys do this? Why is your cost 50% lower than the competition? I don't believe that's possible. So unchecked, these consultants want to prove their worth, because they're making $10,000 to do due diligence,
Justification
right?
and grandstanding.
They want to prove that they're experts at uncovering shit, and saving the client from making a bad investment. So ultimately, the outside analyst has the most success if they prevent the firm from making an investment, right? Hey, I did my job. I showed you all these faults in the company. So for about 10 minutes, And there's maybe 10 people in the room. She's just going on and on and on. Oh, I know these people, and the FDA is going to deregulate you, and you cannot possibly be achieving these costs. I know this technology. I worked in this kind of deal before. These things concern me. So finally, I got sick of this. I'm not the CEO of the company. You know, I'm there to help them raise money. I got sick of this, and I said, hey, we'll just call her Angela. Angela, beyond this right here, I'm wondering if there's any way you can add value to this deal. Right? Is there anything that beyond finding these issues that once we're past it, that you'll be able to contribute to this company as we go forward and go public, right? Are we going to have any continued relationship with you? Do you have any ability to add value? And that was like a dump truck hitting a Miata. She just came full stop. And then had to spend 15 minutes defending herself onto how she could add value. So that is pricing 101. When you say, whoa, 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 right? That stuff is the nuanced details, right? What value do you add to this larger situation as we go forward and are successful, right? That is, that's not in the book, but that is an application of framing and pricing that is very powerful. And it's a full stop check when you say, and you could do it to anyone. Yeah, this is great, but how do you add value to what I have? Because what I have is incredible. Even if you're selling something, and a lot of times we'll do this. If an investor, oh, this is great. I'm glad you guys got me started. So
you're an easy interview.
For this deal, a large Fortune 100 company that's a pharmaceutical company is looking at making an investment. Their first email to us is, we are looking, we look very hard. Our due diligence is very stiff. I can tell you we pay low prices, right? And we've blown out deals because of price alone. And you should expect us to expect a low price, right? First email contact, Fortune 100 pharmaceutical company. So most people would say, don't worry, we're going to make the price. We're going to explain the price to you of the deal. We'll make you happy about price. We'll give you all the proof points you need. Price. Most people would defend themselves. So I emailed them back and said, look, your email is a complete red flag to me. I did not know you're a bottom feeder looking for discount deals, right, that are in distress. And I can certainly refer discounted, budget, distressed deals to you because it sounds like that's what you have an appetite for. But our company has bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3 in strength. So before we go any further, why don't you tell me what kind of investor you are, because we're only looking to add quality investors to our deal. Send. So the CEO of the company was freaking out, and he said, you cannot talk to people like that. I said, no, you can't talk to anybody differently. Why would you ever want this guy if he's acting like a jerk as an investor? And that is the core of pricing, right? If you don't suit my needs, if you act like a jerk, if you're looking for a discount, distressed price, why would I ever want you in the deal? Money is infinite. Customers are infinite. Why don't you tell me why I would allow you in this deal and live with you for the next 4 years while we're building this company? Why would I don't sell a product, but I know the same abstraction work is, look, I'm incredibly busy. I have a range of customers. I can only spread myself across so many accounts. So I have to choose the accounts I take carefully. If you're going to be a small account that's a hassle, I would not want you. Why don't you tell me in the stuff that you buy how you behave as a customer so I can decide if I will choose you? And you could say those words exactly. And that is, will stop someone who's being aggressive and put them in reverse, because now they have to and here's the word, they have to qualify themselves back to you, right? And so before you guys ask a question, this is incredibly effective when somebody's being aggressive. You force them to qualify themselves, like I did with the analyst. It stops them in the track and puts them backwards. I don't know if I like you, and I don't know if we would get along. And some of the things you're saying are red flags. So I'd like to understand your track record of being a customer and a buyer, right? So we know if it's worth spending any more time together. And that is pricing, and that is frame control, and that will be effective every single time if you can do it without arrogance, but powered with authenticity, right? And then, so the big question is, how do you power that with authenticity? And that goes back to the question you first asked, is preparation. Most of my method and the stuff I have, and I can show you, is about things to say that work. The one thing that I cannot do is help you get authenticity. And that just comes from believing in yourself, that you are fun to be with, that you are have a great product, and even if it's a mediocre product, you plus your product are better than anything, and that your time is valuable. And if you can internalize that and truly believe it and know it, then you will have the authenticity you need to say all these things. And the words don't matter. Like literally, I can go in and some of these things I can say the crux of the biscuit is the apostrophe, which is of course meaningless. But it's powered, my intent is powered so deeply that people will understand where I'm getting at. So if an analyst is really starting to abuse me, I can say, you know what? The crux of the biscuit is the apostrophe. And that will stop them and make them go backwards because my intent is powered from an authentic core, and they may not understand the words, but they know what the emotional impact is. So I don't want to become too abstract, but you've got to internalize this sense that I'm the prize. You have to win me, my product, my attention, my time.
It's extremely counterintuitive to what you think, right? I mean, I think the process that most people take out there is I'm trying to appease the person who has the cash, right? Mm-hmm. So ideally, what you're saying is go against your gut, and really, you really have to look at. I absolutely understand. There's a lot more cash out there than there are deals, is what you're saying. And people are looking to put their stuff into that. And I think if people wrap their head around that whole thing of, yeah, you know what, I'm going to give you the ability to work with me, and you're going to end up, succeeding because of that fact, right?
Well, they're all trying to defend their position, right? They're through the entire process. They don't want to be controlled into something they don't want to do ultimately.
Yeah.
But I do have a question for you, Oren. So when you're going into these meetings, like, do you have like a mental checklist and when you're in this meeting and you're going, okay, how is this going? Do you just sort of think to yourself, okay, where is this moving? Okay, how do I want to adjust it? And just recheck yourself and then keep moving? Or is this do you just wing it when you're in there?
So I will answer this question like this. Today, I mean, I'm a badass. Like I'm good at this stuff. I mean, that's why you're talking to me. That's why McGraw-Hill asked me to do. I mean, I'm lethal. Okay, but I have to answer your question better. I'll roll back to the old me, 5 years ago, and my knees would shake, and really I had these things written out on index cards. The amazing thing that I think I would share with you. I got to plug my machine in, otherwise we're gonna time out.
No problem.
So hang on 1 second. Let me get some power. All right. So that's not particularly insightful. Write the shit you're supposed to be doing down on an index card so you have it as a reference. So everybody knows that. But
Thanks,
what I learned is you could literally pull out that index card and read from it. And if you had the content right, that would work. It's okay. you don't have to, if you don't know the material off the tip of your tongue, right? And you're nervous and standing in front of people, it's okay to say, you know what? I have a thought on this on card number 13. Let me just pull that.
Yeah, well, obviously not.
I just want to read this to you because I prepared my. So someone would say, that's pretty cool. A guy prepared for this meeting, wrote down his thoughts on an index card, got to a point in the meeting where he got stuck, knows which card it's on, and can refer to his prepared note. I admire that.
Yeah.
And so the amazing thing is that you can literally prepare these thoughts and these notes, pull out a card, and say, excuse me, I'm just going to read my thoughts from this card. Read it, and then go back into it. So the reason I say do it that way, until you have said these things that are counterintuitive and scary off your lips, you can't remember them. Like it's kung fu muscle training for your lips, right? You actually have to get in there and say it. And some, it's great because once you experience the shock of it working, then you internalize that and it becomes part of you. But you have to be able to say these things straight faced and with humor and powered authentically, and you got to get in there and say them. So sometimes the preparation involves just having it written down and reading it word for word off the card.
Now, do you ever catch yourself though when you're talking and you go, "This isn't working. What can I do?" And then I guess after the fact you go, "That worked. I need to start doing that instead now." Right?
Yeah.
Is that part of a process methodology you incorporate or internalize?
I think there's no doubt that the method came from trial and error. I worked for a very high net worth guy, let's just call him, $100 million guy. And we were doing deals that compete with Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, then Bear Stearns, the Wall Street banks. So this guy that I worked with was very adventurous and funny and mercurial. For example, I would develop an investor, say, for $500,000, but he was reluctant to sign a single piece of paper called a bad boy carve-out, which just says if you do anything illegal, you lose all your rights in the deal, right? So I said, hey, Jonathan, can you talk to this guy for a few minutes and just get him over this bad boy carve-out because I can't convince him to sign it. So we get on the phone, and Jonathan says, hey, Mr. Smith, listen, you got to sign the bad boy carve-out. And Mr. Smith says, I'm really nervous about it. I don't want to sign it. I haven't done this kind of thing before. So Jonathan says, look, you know what you should do then? Take your money, shove it up your ass, and never call us again. But by the way, Oren is going to hang on the phone for another few minutes in case you have any other questions. So part of my life was dealing with this character, all right? And so the reason I say that, very adventurous, and the things he allowed me to do, you would get fired for at a investment bank, the traditional. So I was able to, fly planes and crash them, and say, wow, that didn't work. The engine freezes up at 14,000 feet. Let's not take this kind of engine to that height again because it crashes $100 million airplanes. Yeah. So I've wiped out, easily $100 million of deals practicing this stuff. That any single one of those would have gotten you fired from Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. Yeah. So a lot of trial and error has got into this stuff that you would not be able to do on your own. You probably hear this a lot, but damn it, if I had my own material, when I started learning it, I would be 10 years ahead of where I am now. Yeah. So I would say, rather than going through trial and error, use this stuff that we figured out at hundreds of millions of dollars of expense, and just use what's there. I mean, it's like a franchise. Why start a juice? Well, today you wouldn't start put a juice concern in a mall. You just get a Jamba Juice because they know how it works. Yeah. And so to answer your question, I mean, yeah, there's trial and error all the time, but just use this stuff. Mm-hmm. We got it worked out.
Absolutely.
which begs the question, right, Oren? Why would you share this with anybody?
Yeah.
I the way this book started is interesting, or the way I started coalescing this material so other people could use it out of my own notes is I was working on a deal and they had 8 guys in a bullpen, and the selling was so bad on the phone that I didn't want to be around that art. What I do is an art form, and I don't want to be around bad art. So I said to the guys who run that group, I said, "Your guys are so bad. It's please let me fix them, right? Because I don't want to be around this kind of horrible pitching behavior."
Yep.
"Oh, Mr. Jones, I'll run down there. If you just give me 15 minutes of your time, I'll drive across town and bring you anything you need. If you just consider, buying one from us." Horrible. 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 And so I didn't want to be around it. So I fixed that entire group. They couldn't get past gatekeepers. They couldn't prize themselves. They had no frame control. They were begging. I didn't want to be around begging. So I said, let me fix these guys. And I fixed them up, in the course of a couple months into an effective selling group. And we got rid of the guys who wouldn't adapt. And so that was the first realization that the material was teachable. And then that was very fulfilling. So, and a good point I think I can make now, there's no seminar I'm not Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins is Tony. There's no seminar today that you can attend, to learn this stuff. Google. So I spoke at Google a month ago. They asked me to come back and teach their sales and business development guys this stuff. So if you're at Google, you could learn it. But there's, I don't teach it, but I've shared it with the world because there's so much bad art out there. This is the way it's going to work. People are moving towards this methodology. So if you're at Google, you might get a few minutes with me and I can train you. But
well, it's a give forward kind of thing, right?
Well, it's very similar. I mean, I write a daily sales and marketing blog, right? The reason I do that is because I took 25 years of experience, and if I have to watch because so many people used to come to me and go, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? Right? And I thought, if you're the one person saying this, there's probably tons of people like you, right? And I'll tell you what, if I can shorten your learning cycle from 25 years to 1 day, then I've done my job, right? And I, at the end of the day, I feel good about myself, good, bad, and different, whether my information's valid or not. But
Oh, you're so philanthropic, Chris.
I guess so. Yeah. It's all about the Almighty.
And for your guys, I mean, if anybody wants some follow-up material that's not on the website, I'm happy to have our analysts send it along. So pitch books, some of this stuff on pricing, which isn't public, maybe the presentation that I gave Google that got them excited. I'm willing to share that in a Dropbox with your guys, so they have some additional, material. So most other guys would say, hey, sell that for $4.99 or $49,000.
Yeah.
We just give it away and try and get this into the ether, into the zeitgeist. So the guys who are not willing to learn a better method of pitching and selling will fall by the wayside. But by the way, young guys know this stuff because the game, if you search game, the young guys know this stuff from the social arena, and they're starting to apply it to business. So when they read my book, Pitch Anything, they're like, oh, this is game for business.
Yep.
It's like what you use to pick up girls or to meet guys on a social level applied to picking up companies. And they, in 2 seconds, go, I know what's going on here, right? This is social game for business. I'm in.
Yeah.
And in fact, these guys are pushing the art form, beyond where I have it. So if you're 35, 36, 40, 41, you got to watch out because these 22, 24-year-old guys know this stuff. And now I've shown them how to apply those same social skills to business.
Absolutely.
And treat business as a social game, and they're coming for you. So if you don't know what this stuff is, you won't even understand how you lose accounts. You'll say, what? Some 24-year-old kid came in, insulted the CEO, gave a presentation that was 20 minutes long and told the company that they have to beg to work with him, and he's leaving now, and when they're ready to give him a call, and he got the account.
Yeah.
And you go, how's that possible? I'm dealing with the Brad Pitt of business pickup. It's insane. So if you don't know this stuff, you won't even know what's happening to your own accounts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important from that.
I saw something you were talking about. It was, Game and your book are most matched up on Amazon. I haven't read Game because, you know what? First of all, I'm 44 and I got 3 kids and I'm happily married, right? So I'm not out cruising the strip to try to find girls or anything like that. But as soon as I heard it, I was very intrigued because it's the concepts are very similar, right? But I mean, we don't want to go into plugging that. This is about you and stuff.
And and of course the other thing is, one thing I have to comment is this book is a frame grabber for you, isn't it? Isn't that essentially is that the fundamentals of the success of coming out with a book like this? I mean, that must change the psychology of the sale if they know you wrote this.
Here's what I would say. There's a chapter in the book on status, right? And please, I mean, if you don't have $14, just email me and say, I don't have $14. Can you please just send me the stuff on status, right? And I'll give it to you. Status is so incredibly important. So if you see can you put up, Kirsten, maybe the last few, or I can do it. Can you put up the presentation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. You want to go to the last slide?
Yeah, the slide, I think slide 8.
Okay.
What's it say?
It should be the pitch deck. Is it up?
Not yet. Hold on. Takes a couple seconds. We should be on there.
So, well,
there it is. There's it. There it is. Okay, you can speak to that.
Is that it?
Yeah, we got it now.
Yeah, I don't see it. I still see slide 1.
Just refresh it. Just refresh your page. But keep going. We're on that slide.
Oh, refresh. All right.
You're good.
So status, we work really hard to come in and establish high status early. The first thing, I don't like these academic studies too much, but they can be revealing. Well, one of them they did is one group were the buyers. They said, you're the CEO of a company buying a cell phone plan, right? And they made the other group taking the cell phone plan. You're the salesperson. And they made the status differential as far as it possibly could be. You're the CEO of a Fortune 50 company choosing a cell phone plan that for 200,000 employees. You, the other person, is a salesperson on your first day on the job, and here's a cell phone plan you're selling. Well, what they discovered is if you're coming from a low status, almost no offering, no matter how compelling, can bridge the gap of the low status position. All right? You follow me? So as they improved the quality of the plan that was being offered to the buying CEO, it never got the sale closer because they couldn't gap the status differential. If there is a high gap in the status between the people you're approaching and the where you are on the status food chain, right? Almost nothing you offer will work. Status is incredibly important. I think I'm going to move this slide forward, okay? So one thing I learned very early on, this is now how our pitch decks look. Because, I mean, everybody's seen a pitch deck or a PowerPoint or something like that, and they all are shades of the same thing. PowerPoint, they're ugly, they're unreadable, they're complicated, and more so, they all look the same. There's no novelty. So we come into every deal starting like this, from the high status position. All of our decks look something like this, right? I mean, before I got to this was a horrible PowerPoint. You didn't know if the people offering this deal were 2 guys and a dog in a West Hollywood apartment inventing a cockamamie deal, or if this was JP Morgan providing the most high quality, best underwritten deal in the world, because they all look the same. So when we do a deck like this, which takes a lot of time and energy, you come in with such high status that you're immediately accepted as important. And this actually, ties back to the question you had. So for me now with the book, if somebody calls up and says, hey, we want you to raise money, or we want you to put together an offering for us, or structure a pitch deck like this, I say, hey, are you coming? Have you read the book, right? And they say, oh, no, but we haven't read the book. I'm not dealing with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because why? The book is so powerful and amazing, and before you understand my mindset, because you'll come in immediately saying, I want this, if you have gone through the book. So I don't deal with anybody who hasn't read the book, because it's too low of a status position. And in terms of status, you can win status if you're coming in from the low status position. You can win high status, which we cover, called local star power. The status comes. You got me on the status box. Status comes from three things. It comes from wealth, power in terms of political position, and notoriety or celebrity. Those are the sources of status, and there aren't other ones. That's called global status. So you're not going to meet a billionaire, and I've met many, many billionaires and pitched to them and got deals done with them, all right? You're not going to meet a billionaire and say, hey, I'm on the same status of you because I'm also a billionaire. I have $3 billion. You're not going to be able to change your global status, right? I'm a pitchman or a salesperson or a private equity guy that makes $200,000 a year. You're a billionaire. I have low status in terms of the global status. I can't suddenly become Brad Pitt, the mayor of Los Angeles, or a billionaire. Cannot affect those three things. Those are real and they're set. But what you can do is create local star power, local status, right? And I'll give you a super quick example. So if we are putting a deal into the market, a public offering, right, and the printer jams, we can't get the offering out to the investors. Suddenly the most high status person in the whole deal is the copier repairman, right? And if he says, I want a cup of coffee, the CEO goes, would you like sugar and milk? And can I get you a Scottish biscuit? Right? That's local star power. You can create that. And we discussed that. And by the same token, you may have high status. You come in, you say, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. I couldn't find a parking spot. Really? You have 20 minutes with a billionaire and you're 10 minutes late because you couldn't find a goddamn parking spot? Like, that is creating low status, right?
Yeah.
So status is something that you can affect locally, but not globally. So how you control the frame and local star power is incredibly important to how well your pitch will be received. And to make it not abstract, one of the most compelling things you can do to raise your status early is do a pitch deck in kind of this. And by the way, if you email us, I'm just Oren at Intersection Capital. Very easy to find. We'll email you a bunch of decks that have raised tens of millions of dollars, and you can copy them.
That's awesome.
But don't come in looking the same as everyone else from the low status position.
So that applies to everything, and that's essentially what the book is for you. Basically, in that world now, it puts you in a position of status. So it's a sales tool in that sense.
Now we have to be cognizant of the time too, right?
Yeah,
because we're coming up on an hour here. I just cognizant of your time, not ours, but just yours. So.
We do have questions from the live audience that attended here. I do have one question here, and it's very fitting. I have to do pitching and selling at the same time in order to get my concept developed. It is B2B application development that needs real-life data from potential customers. So, how do you combine pitching and selling?
Yeah. Okay, this is great. I have, maybe there's a slide here that can. All right. Here's what I see in response to this. I believe, because the scientists believe, every cognitive psychologist believes, clinical psychologist, psychology 101, the human attention span is very limited, right? Some guys will say it's a minute long, but we give it more credit than that. The human attention span is definitely not longer than 20 minutes. So meetings, especially selling meetings, they can last 2 hours. I would take the first 20 minutes from the time you walk in the door and say, "Hail fellow, well met." You have 20 minutes to pitch your concept. And after that, you may be selling for days or weeks or months. But to describe the value proposition, who you are, what your credibility is, what the upside for the customer is, what the downside protection is, what the critical assumptions are, the critical path to implementation, and what security the buyer or the investor will have. That's all got to be compressed into 20 minutes. So you give that, ultimately, that pitch on your product and your value proposition and yourself in that very compressed time period, and then you can relax and spend your time selling. But pitch the deal so it lands hard and is understood, and you have refined all these complex concepts into this 120-minute block of time where you have attention. Because at minute 21, entropy sets in, and I promise you, you do not have attention of the people in front of you at anything near the intensity or scope or scale that you had it in the first 20 minutes. So that's how I would, that's how I would answer the question. Pitch the deal hard and clean and simple and completely. Lock it down and then move into selling mode.
Excellent.
Can I keep
question
on?
and excellent answer.
You nailed that one. And I'm just in respect of time, I'm just going to roll through these here. There's a couple more.
Yeah, let's do it.
So did Oren build his idea raising VC early stage capital, or do his clients have revenue? How's that?
Oh yeah. So let me answer that this way. Every single deal, no matter how soft or how early or how conceptual or how far along, can raise money. I am absolutely convinced of that. Now, I'm not saying, if you have a burn rate of $500,000 a month and you have $500,000 left, that you can raise that in a month, under the death ray of. But if you have some runway, every single deal, even at the idea stage, can raise money. The one reason I'm convinced of this is I am a motorcycle collector and racer. And many years ago, the company that I was buying my race bikes from needed some money. And they were in a cold, dark warehouse in North Hollywood by the train tracks across from a strip club by the liquor store. And this is not a name brand liquor store. You won't even find a Subway out there. And so they really needed some capital and a banking relationship to have some inventory and things like that. They said, "Can you help us?" And I said, "Oh man, I don't know. Like, this is a warehouse in North Hollywood, like you see on the Discovery Channel." In 45 days, I had $750,000 in there, and not from some rich guy in Beverly Hills, from the state of North Dakota. So if I got the state of North Dakota with no special skills or not, to put $750,000 in a motorcycle shop in North Hollywood by a strip club, I became convinced every single deal that you could ever touch can raise capital. North Dakota is the only state with a balanced budget. They're unbelievably conservative. And so the answer is, and hope this may be more answer than there was question. Even if you're at early inception stage, you should be using all of this stuff to raise capital and build your company to the point it has revenues. And then, and my last point, once you have built something, capital flows to good deals. capital will flow to a good deal. So it's not always going to be so hard, right? But you do have to prime the pump, get some early stage capital into your idea, build the idea, get some revenue. If it's solid, capital will flow to it. It does become easier.
Okay,
that would almost be a question, a whole separate segment, which
absolutely.
is how do you set it up properly? Who do you put on the team? How do you you basically, we were talking a bit about this before. You could take an ugly pig and slap lipstick on it, and you might be able to get it out the door too, right? But it's you have to make the deal attractive, at least for people, I would think, right?
Let me talk about that for just a second, if you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's entirely up to your time. We're cognizant of your time, so.
When you first meet an investor, and maybe the first 2 or 3 meetings, unlike you, who are an entrepreneur or an executive, and they are looking for ways to not invest because they are nervous about losing money. The smallest red flags or things that don't add up or signals of weakness become stop signs. So the investor is looking hard. He's what I would call hyper vigilant for red flags and stop signs. So the number one thing that I believe is necessary is to scrub a deal for these red flags and stop signs. I give you an example. So I have some guys who are credible. They've done some things. They put $50,000 into a deal of their own money, and we're out trying to raise some more. And they came to me and said, can you look at it and can you help? I said, look, I'm looking at your financial plan, and you've got yourselves in there for real salaries, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. No investor I know is going to invest in a social media related internet startup and give you guys $10,000 a month salaries when you haven't even built the site. So red flag, you're done. It's just not done that way. Like Techstars wants to start entire companies with $25,000. You guys have $25,000 in pay in month 1. So red flag, stop sign, you're done. A second one is, you guys have spent $50,000 and you have a landing page, right? I mean, today they build entire companies for $25,000. That's a signal of what you do with money. Is not build, is you spend, but you don't build stuff. The third is these budgets, from what I know about technology spend, are not realistic. So, and here's my point. Building a pro forma or a projection that shows in the future you will make great capital returns is not a highly regarded executive skill set. A 9-year-old can build a future projection that shows great returns. Budgeting realistically and forecasting is the most highly regarded executive skill set in the world. So the CEO of a public company, if he makes his numbers, stays on. If he misses his numbers, he gets fired. That is called forecasting. It's really the litmus test, not profitability, forecasting that you get measured on as an executive. So your ability to budget and have proof points around how the things that you say will happen actually will happen is a very highly regarded skill and impresses investors. All right. So screening these red flags around pay, what you've done, and how you budget are incredibly important to not raising red flags in those first meetings.
Wow. That is absolute gold right there, right? So it's amazing.
And getting back. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Did you have one more thought?
Yeah. Let me say something. I have come to the perspective that a pitch is not a performance to get somebody to buy something from you, or invest in your deal. It is a presentation of a social contract with an investor that the things you say will happen really will happen. Investors buy credibility. All right. Investors buy certainty. So I've never said this before. Let me give you some fresh content that has never been in any of my, Google doesn't have it. It's not in the book. Mixergy doesn't have it. This is only for you guys.
Excellent.
Yeah. I believe that if you're having trouble funding your deal, that this approach will work for you. Mr. Investor, Oren, take this plan and these projections, lock them in a vault. All right? I will come back to you in 6 months. If I have done all these things that are in this plan, then you overpay me for certainty. All right? And if I haven't done all these things or I miss them, then you can underpay me for risk. So let's check in once a month, talk. Let's take this thing out of the vault in 6 months. If I have provided certainty that my ability to forecast things and revenues and events in the future is something you can rely on with certainty, you overpay me at that point. You can fund any deal with that approach because investors buy certainty.
Excellent. That's approach. Actually, I'm doing that right now with a client, where I've dropped my hourly to prove what I do will get him money, right? And so put your money where your mouth is. I guess the best way to look at it. It's awesome idea.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions?
There's one more question, and it does kind of apply to some of this. So that first impression, and I think I know where you're going to go with this, but it's a very valid question that a lot of people have, and that is, how do you deal with that objection in the initial cold introduction? The cold call in this particular case was the question.
So
how do you set the frame in a cold call objection situation? That goes down to basics, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who cold calls, by the way?
Yeah. I mean, if I did ever teach a class, it would be around cold calling. Here's what I believe. Cold calling is about managing the social interaction, right? Because it's the fastest proof point that you can get to is that you're a cool, relevant, social, interesting, intriguing person to deal with. You are humorous, experienced, you understand the value of time, and that you have some intriguing experiences to share. Nobody wants to take a meeting with someone where they know what will be discussed, what the outcome is, and feel like they can predict the end of the call at the beginning. This is the problem with, in my view, most cold calling, is I can predict the end of the call at the beginning of it. All right? So the way you deal with, with cold calls is novelty, intrigue, tension, humor, and social relevance. If you can put those things in your cold call, then anyone. I mean, I pride myself on being able to get anyone on a call for a few minutes. I mean, that's one of the things, like, in the groups I'm in, they're like, oh, how can we get a relationship with so-and-so? I mean, don't worry about that. I'll just get them on the phone, right? It's the ability to combine intrigue, novelty, humor, and social sense quickly and respect time that will take a cold call into a social situation instantly. That is how you turn cold calling into, what I call hot cognition. It's the intrigue. So people come to calls and meetings and situations because they want to meet interesting people, hear about new ideas, go in their mind to colorful places and exotic ideas that they had not previously considered or experienced. That's why people will listen to you, stay in a call, come to a meeting, or go from cold to hot. If they know what you're going to say and can, wrong or right, predict the end of the call, they're gone, and the cold call really does go flat and cold.
Yep.
Does that help?
Yeah, and it's hard to bring that whole question back to the front. It's over. It's done. You really got to rebuild, don't you? Well, that's been an information fest, I have to say. Thank you very much for joining us. Chris, you had a few comments.
Well, first off, I'm going to hold the book up so everyone can see what it looks like, so that people know that they should go out and rush out, get this book, or go on Amazon, or in Canada, Indigo, and get the book. I absolutely enjoyed reading this book.
Yeah.
It's we do interviews for McGraw-Hill, and they send us a lot of books, but somehow or other I gravitated towards this one really quickly.
Yeah, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, Kirsten kept phoning me about it and asking me about it and tell me things.
Thanks a lot, Oren. I neglected my family for a whole afternoon because of you. Anyways, all right, so I'm petting your back.
I want to say something, just quickly. A lot of us have this fantasy, when they pick up a book that some author, hid himself out in a cabin and wrote down his thoughts, to paper and then edited it. I mean, this book is not that. There's 6 or 7 people that worked on it. I mean, these are my concepts, but, I have a writer from the New York Times that helped make this stuff accessible in times when my writing was confusing. I hired a cognitive psychologist from Columbia and Harvard to make sure that the concepts we talked about were, validated in the science, and this wasn't just, one man's fantasy. We had several editors work on it along the way, and some investment banks, provided and shared their experiences and allowed me to talk about some of the deals that I had with them. So this is really, more of a textbook narrative that many people worked on to make it, it's not one man's opinion. This is a serious body of work that many people collaborated on. And so it's important to understand this is not musings of one person's opinion. Like, this is the real deal. This is how. It's funny. Last thing. So I talked to in developing the book. I talked to Jeff Hawkins, who was the founder of Palm Computing. Oh, I think it's public. He's a guy with $400 million, and he runs a company now called Numenta, which does brain research. And I said, Jeff, can you validate some of these things we're saying about how the brain, there's 20 minutes of attention, and how the brain breaks down complex ideas and becomes fearful of certain ideas and accepts others? And he said, Oren, this stuff is all right, and I know all this stuff. I just didn't write it down the way you did. So that was incredibly validating. The guy with $400 million that has a brain research science center that thinks about this stuff all the time says, you really have it right, but I just haven't written it down as well as you did. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys.
No, that's good. It's good. Your stories are amazing. They're great stories. I love them.
Chris and I are going to have to take some of those pointers when we create our book.
Exactly.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Oren,
great.
it was absolutely.
Remember to spend money.
What was that? Sorry?
Remember to spend money. I mean, some of these guys are $25,000 a month. To get them to do work.
Yeah.
So don't forget to bring a couple $100,000 when you want to do your book too.
Yeah.
That's an important piece to getting a good product out.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to be in the investment banking world to actually to get the staff on to write the book I want to write, right? So.
Well, great. Well, I'll sum this up by saying again a thank you to the audience as well for participating in this broadcast. Chris is just going to show the book one more time.
Show the book one more time. Absolutely awesome book, right? And Oren, I know you're not getting rich off of writing a book, right?
Yeah.
It's
Oren, is it available? Is it available in an audiobook yet? Or are there any plans?
No, it's not audiobook. If anybody wants to produce the audiobook, I guess contact us because we don't have it yet. But it's on Kindle and I don't know.
Yeah. Good. That's fine.
Yeah, Amazon.
Yeah.
That's fine. And please keep those questions flowing. We are going to this is now going to be a rebroadcast, so you can watch this over again and pass this on to people that you know, so that they can share some of this wealth around, or this information around, which actually turns into wealth.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good little tool for you to pass on. So please do that. Please use the share links and pass it on to people that you know. Invite them into the conversation.
If the questions are good enough, I'm happy to come back on or in whatever format and, answer them directly.
Absolutely.
So,
well, if it's as simple as a Skype interview, then we'll do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll also, there will be a link through to how to get to your website and also get a hold of you as well, if people are so inclined to do so.
Yeah, there's links, and download that first chapter. It's a good chapter. It's a good introduction to the whole concept. So, thanks, Oren.
Yeah, thank you very much, Oren, for your time. Greatly appreciate
All
it.
right.
Talk to you later.
Okay, take care. Well, that was great.
Yeah, we're off air now, so we're good.
Yeah. So, I'm still on the
Are we
air,
still
but
on air?
I'm still on the air. But that the recorded version is done. So
Are you
thanks everybody for
taking
joining us. We'll kind of wrap it up. I think pretty much we're done.